This is Brain Software, episode 103, where we share more tips on making your life awesome, and we answer several fascinating questions about hypnosis.
Breaker balls, eh? Breaker balls, eh? Hey, get your Jimmy hat. It's me, Dave Ambrose, man. It's awesome to be back, Scro. What's happening, man? We got a show for you today, dude. It's out of sight, Dickie. It's both particle and new wave. Get it? So here's the 2IC of all things hypnotic. Chris Thompson. Do I get my $20 now? I'm really hungry, Scro.
Of course you're hungry, Dave. I'm hungry. We're all hungry, and we're riding the winds of change. Greeting humans of Earth. It's too late to stop this storm. That damn thing has taken on a life of its own, and it's greasing the very grease of the fabric of society. Whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know? These are days of victory. This is Brain Software, podcast number 103, and you're riding all things that we ride, from hurricanes to tornadoes and cyclones and beyond. It's all about hypnosis, NLP, and personal development. So let's welcome to the nexus of the personal industry, a man who needs no introduction, but is getting one anyway. Storm Rider number one.
That's me.
And the original trance pirate, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, and here I am with our brand new microphones. This is quite exciting, I must say.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of an audio upgrade, although the audio was already excellent, so I don't know if anyone's going to notice any difference, but it's nice for us. It's more comfortable and relaxing. And
That's funny about audio. Remember when telephones were switching to digital handsets? And the sound all of a sudden got crap.
It
was terrible.
Yeah.
And the guy in the store actually said to me, "Oh, it's better quality. It just sounds worse."
Nice reframe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better quality in that. All right, so let's talk. Today is going to be whatever day you're listening to this on. Podcasts are on demand. It's like they're broadcast. Today, on today's podcast, which could be tomorrow for some others. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things, but why do I keep slapping myself on the thigh for attention? Can you guys hear this? Today,
move your hand a bit to the right and the effect will be more profound.
Oh, that's really not nice. All right. So in this episode, we are going to continue with our 100 Days of Awesome. We're going to talk about more strategies and expand upon some of our top ideas, but we're also going to answer a bunch of mailbag questions. Yeah. We've had a lot of people sending us messages either by email or through the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Facebook page, which is sort of tied into Facebook Messenger.
It is.
So it's kind of cool. And we're going to do that. But before we do, let's just talk really quick. We had quite an amazing week in Toronto last week.
Oh, yeah.
With the June Architecture of Hypnosis 5-day training. We had people come to Toronto from probably more countries for one class
the most
than ever
diverse
before.
Ever. We had all over Canada and the U.S., including Rhode Island and Colorado, Alabama, and Miami, Florida. We also had all over Canada, and we also had our first student from Belgium, our first student from Sweden. We had 2 from England, 1 from Scotland, 1 from Paris, 1 from the south of France,
Dubai.
1 from Germany, 1 from Dubai, and Gotham returning from India for the 3rd time.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So we've done something right to bring all these people who end a week saying this has been transformational. So
yeah, man.
If you're interested, we are teaching the next Architecture of Hypnosis in November. You can find out about it at mikemandelhypnosis.com/events. That sounded weird. // Yeah,
what'd you say?
/ events. All right, check it out. There's some amazing stuff going on. While we're on the topic of events, same URL. You can check out what we're doing in Las Vegas in August. We're going to be doing a Mindscaping 1-day certification as a pre-conference 1-day training on Thursday, which is the day before HypnoThoughts Live begins. That's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday conference.
And that's fantastic, Chris, because people come in from all over the world to this amazing conference.
Best conference we've ever been to.
Do mindscaping certification training with you and I, and then the conference starts the next day, full on for 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of other great stuff going on by a bunch of our now friends. Over the years we've gone to this conference, so we've made great friends. There's people teaching smoking cessation protocols, and Rick is doing a course on confidence building, and there's all kinds of cool stuff going on. as either a pre-conference or a post-conference event.
And, Chris, that's what's so fantastic about HypnoThoughts Live, the pre-conference and post-conference events. The 3-day training of all the different speakers that you get included is amazing. But people can come out the Thursday and do a full day of mindscaping training, certification with you and I, and then plunge into the conference on Friday.
It's going to be a great time. So that's late August. Check it out when flights to Vegas are cheap. The hotel is very, very cost effective, and you can come hang out with us.
Every night at the Alligator Bar.
You got it. All right, so let's move on to today's content. Do you want to start with the Q&A first or the 100 Days of Awesome
Let's
first?
go to Q&A.
All right, so we've got first we have to do our talking points on the word of the day.
Yeah, now I've started taking the word of the day from the think tank that I own by Savo Bukacek, where it actually generates random words. So you have to take what it brings, and he brings up, I nearly said vomits out.
Vomits out.
Our word for the day is sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
So how are we applying that? I'm looking right away. This little studio down in your house, in the very colon of the house.
What do you mean little? What do you mean little, Mike? We don't want people to think that it's just
in downtown Toronto. With brand new microphones. This is our sanctuary. This is where the work gets done, isn't it?
Yeah. The word sanctuary to me, it makes me think back to just a couple of days ago. I think it was, Father's Day. This past Sunday, we're recording this just for those of you interested on a Tuesday. So 2 days ago was Father's Day. And I woke up earlier than anyone else in the house, around maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock. By the time I got downstairs, grabbed a cup of coffee, went outside, sat by my pool as the sun was just creeping over the hedge.
Yeah, began channeling Ken Sweatman, yeah.
I really enjoyed just sitting there and enjoying I enjoyed enjoying the view. And I thought, it was 4 years ago that I left Toronto to move out here into a smaller town. And this is my sanctuary. The backyard on a summer day, that is sanctuary to me.
Oh, for sure, man. That's a great one. And what it also triggers with me is I ordered those amazing cards about the, inner work for ego state work.
Yeah.
And the ones I mean? Do you know the ones I'm talking about? Somebody had posted them in MMHA Engage, and I ordered the cards and the book. They're delivered today, actually.
Oh, cool.
But the point is, it was showing a model for ego states I had never seen, which I think is freaking brilliant. It is said by Jung and others that when you dream, if you dream of a house, that's you. And it's interesting because everything in the basement is unconscious, everything on the main floor, et cetera, et cetera. And this whole way of looking at ego states is some of them are in the living room talking to each other. Someone else comes to the door. You don't know, is it a tax man? Is it a cop? And ego states come up from the basement to deal with this. Meanwhile, there's also like a bomb shelter off the basement. And these are the wounded, invaded ones that are hiding out down there. And it's freaking brilliant, this model. So sanctuary is down in the basement, the ego states that have not emerged, that have not been cured, that haven't been healed.
What are the name of these cards? What is the
Inner something? I can't remember. I'm at an age where I don't even have to remember.
Well, that's okay. All right. Well, moving right along then.
They're really good. You just can't tell you what they are. So what are we going to do with
the word sanctuary? What are we going to do?
I was saying that sanctuary it's that house, right?
Right.
The ego states, some are staying out of sight, but when they're healed, they can emerge from sanctuary.
I know.
And
but
move out
think
into
of
the
our
world.
listeners, Mike. What are our listeners going to do with this word?
Well, my question is, what sanctuary are you clinging to that you're afraid to move out of? And when you head outside it, here's your first empowering question. How different will your life be when you expand your horizons?
Ooh, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. All right.
So
let's
we do
go.
it, man. So we do it.
Okay, this is how we do it downtown. So next is the questions. All right, here's the first one. This is a really simple one, and I admit I forgot. I keep slapping my leg when I'm making emphasis. I'm like whacking myself on the knee to make an emphasized point. And I'm sure that's going to come across horribly on the podcast.
No doubt.
So, all right, this question, I admit I forgot to write down who asked it, but it came in by email, and the questioner wants to know if hypnosis can be used by a therapist for evil purposes. So I assume the context here is, let's say somebody comes into a hypnotist's office for a change work session. Can that hypnotist do bad, do wrong, do evil?
Well, it's a weird hypothetical question. I understand where the person is going with this, but immediately I wonder what would cause someone to even raise such a question. I think of that question as fitting in the category of, can policemen ever use their badge and their position as police to do wrong? Because a therapist is in an authoritarian position in a way. They have prestige and so on, and they're one that hopefully the person would be vulnerable enough in front of to be able to deal with these things. And the misuse of a therapeutic session, of course, it's possible. And there have been people who've done that, but that's reprehensible. It's not the hypnosis that's doing it. It's the misuse of the position.
Yeah. And it's the person, right? And in fact, this is going to come up. I think you're doing an interview. Can we talk about this? You're doing an interview next week.
Next week.
Oh, wait. Will that be after this podcast is live, though?
Yes,
okay,
it will.
So if it is, how can people find out? I'm talking about the interview you're doing with our friend David Fairweather on hypnosis for influence and
nefarious
dangers
purposes and so on. Yeah.
So this is probably... this discussion, if anyone is interested, probably they could find a replay. Maybe we can find out.
When we do the notes, we'll put in the show notes. I'll ask David when and how it's going to be aired.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you want to know where this is going to be, go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com and click on the podcast link. Make sure you get to episode 103 in the show notes. We will make sure we put a link to the interview that Mike is doing with David Fairweather on this topic about nefarious purposes, use of hypnosis, because it's not just formal hypnosis that can be used for evil.
Not at all.
It's just solid communication skills.
Which become hypnotic as they affect the unconscious mind.
And the metaphor we come back to a lot of the times is something like, let's say a hammer, you can use that to you can use that to build a truss to support a roof of a house, or you could use it to hit somebody.
I just find it funny that you said truss, because that's what people used to hold a hernia. Okay, let me just go and put on my truss.
That's so horrible.
People who don't want to deal with an inguinal hernia and you've got part of their intestines protruding into the scrotal region.
It's
really like, why have we gone there?
No, every time I drive past a house being constructed.
This podcast has refund written all over it.
Yes,
let's get going here.
I love that line. Okay, next question. Another really simple one. This came in from Terrence on our Facebook Messenger system. That's not even a formal way to say it. Facebook Messenger system. Our MMH Facebook page, now you can message with people, businesses directly. Anyway, so when people go to our website, they can chat with us through Facebook Messenger.
And what's the question?
And the question is mindscaping a standalone therapy, or is it something that can be used alongside hypnosis?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's almost like it's a setup, because it's a plant-style question, but it's not a plant. This was a legitimate question that came in.
Mindscaping creates hypnotic trance just by its very nature. So it is a form of hypnosis. George Guarino, one of our best mindscaping students, maybe the very best now, he... other than ourselves, of course. George, just keep hitting the mic.
Stop using your hat to hit the microphone.
Put it in my croak sack. Yeah. So the thing is, George Guarino said he calls it mindscaping hypnosis when he's dealing with clients. So it is a form of hypnosis, but I know what the person means. Can you just do a session entirely of mindscaping, or does one have to plug it in with other things?
And of course
NLP, whatever.
You can. Of course you can use it as a standalone. It's
completely fluid. You can use it as a standalone. You can use it for coaching, use it for counseling, or you can use it in a therapeutic session. That's one of the powers of it, is the seamless integration with other methodologies.
And when we've done live mindscaping classes, it's always interesting to me to notice that some people come in with zero hypnosis background. They're maybe teachers or coaches or some other walk of life. They've never studied hypnosis. They're intrigued by mindscaping, and oftentimes because it's kind of a hypnotic tool, but it's not presented as hypnosis and does not need to be presented to the client as hypnotic.
Right. And you can defend absolutely that it is not hypnosis. All you're asking the person to do is let their unconscious mind offer this map. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you can defend that eating at a beautiful restaurant, having a nice meal served to you and really enjoying that experience is also not hypnosis.
Right. Hey,
and all the fascinating conversation.
I wish you weren't talking about food, though.
Yeah. So are we going to jump into that now?
Yeah, go ahead. You grab it by the horns and run with that ball.
We will be getting to our 100 days of awesome content after we finish the questions, but Part of the 100 Days of Awesome, I have been using it to really drive myself more into the areas of wellness, personal fitness, and all that stuff. And I've been using the last 100 days. I'm nearly done my 100-day alcohol challenge.
Wow.
Not 100 days of drinking. 100
you
days
didn't even
of
have to go into detox. That's amazing.
I'm at 90. As of this recording, I'm at 96 days
approximately
of zero alcohol. I've also tightened up my workouts and my diet during that time.
As if you needed to.
Drop some more body fat. I did lose 10 pounds, about an inch off my waist. My abs, I like, summertime.
How are you planning on putting it back on?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Mike and I have been discussing ways and strategies of kickstarting fat burning. And Dr. Jason Fung, who's a nephrologist actually from Toronto, very, very well-known doctor, and he writes a lot about fasting. And we already do intermittent fasting, which basically means a compressed eating window, compressed eating window. So we'll typically, let's say, have our last meal maybe 8 p.m. and then not eat again until noon the next day.
7 p.m. for me and 1 p.m. the next day.
So something like that, right?
6-hour window.
But Jason Fung talks a lot about the benefits of doing longer fasts. Now, sometimes people who have a lot of weight to lose, let's say, and really need to kickstart fat burning in their body, they will go to a fast for several days. I don't need to do that. No. I don't think you need either. But he recommends like a minimum of a 36-hour fast once in a while to kickstart things. So I thought, hey, we're into this experimentation thing right now. Let's try it out. As of Sunday night, which was my Father's Day meal, I ate a big meal,
so
and then
I
stopped eating.
Me
and
too.
Did not eat any. Yeah, Mike and I actually talked. So you and I, we planned this.
Yeah, so now it's 11 a.m. on Tuesday. I have not eaten since supper Sunday night.
That's right.
And yesterday, it's interesting, Chris, because around supper time yesterday, about 24 hours in, I felt like crap. I had that thing they call the keto flu.
Yeah.
My body ate like I had flu. I had a dull headache developing in the occiput. I was feeling like really grouchy. And after about 2 hours, it passed.
Well, you said to me too, you sent me a message on Voxer, which is a walkie-talkie app for those of you not interested, or not for those of you not interested, let me tell you what it is. No. Well, it's a walkie-talkie app on the iPhone or Android. It's called Voxer, V-O-X-E-R. It's really
way
cool.
Too interesting.
Anyway, so we Vox each other like walkie-talkie boys, and he's telling me, I just feel horrible. I am, just so you know, buddy, I am not doing this on a regular basis. I'm not making a habit out of this. I feel like crap. And I said to you, I reframed it for you. I said, Mike, that means your body's not fat adapted, right? Because if you're getting horribly hungry, it means that your body is saying, whoa, emergency, need sugar.
But it wasn't even the horribly hungry. It was just a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
But it passed. And then I got up this morning, slept great last night, got up this morning feeling really good. I've had 2 cups of coffee today, but that's it.
I'm barely even hungry now, which is amazing.
I'm at about a 3.5.
Yeah, I'd say
but we are going to eat lunch. I'm not waiting until supper time.
Oh, no. Yeah, I've got a bunch of ground beef thawing. We're going to have what we call naked burgers. Doesn't mean we'll be naked, because we won't.
Right.
It means no bun.
Not saying anything wrong with it. Yeah.
Whenever that term, we got that term from, it was the No Bull Burger Place on Kingston Road.
Side thing that's getting way too interesting. Let's get back to brain software.
Anyway, we're going to eat.
You get this guy going on fitness or food, and he's just gone. Gone. So,
that reminds me, Mike. That reminds me later, and for those of you listening, if you ask Siri,
for those of you listening, who else is going to hear it?
I think there's my
That's
daughter.
Like saying for all of you who are here today.
Yeah. There was a hilarious question that you can ask Siri, and I can't remember what it is right now.
Okay, so
but it's one of these.
Humor.
It's one of these Ericksonian going farther and farther from the original question situations, unrolling of the canvas of just
life.
Distraction from the original question, and it's a hilarious answer. It has something to do with garbage trucks and the color red.
Okay, I've got to know that one.
I'll ask my daughter when.
And now I'm starving. So now we're back.
Now we're going back to questions, and this is from Anne.
This is kind of complex, but I think it's worth going through.
Okay, trying to simplify. With respect to early childhood memories, not good memories with respect to who a perpetrator, I assume of some sort of, I can only imagine what this question is really about, but some sort of perpetrator perpetrating a crime on a child, I imagine. And the question is about how sure can somebody be that in deep trance, if information is brought to the surface, brought to conscious awareness, how sure can the person be that the memories are reliable or accurate?
Right, but then go on to, it said possibly the real perpetrator was replaced with another in the memory because the reality was too much to acknowledge.
Yeah, the woman who wrote the question said that the history of the situation was always known and remembered, just not dealt with until years later, kind of blocked,
right,
denied. Then there was this consideration that maybe her unconscious mind replaced the perpetrator.
Okay, and that's a very interesting question because I had a case of this, Chris, an actual case. Working with an abused young woman who was, I mentioned this in class, the one who was abused by the teacher on a music trip.
Yes, you did.
The girl who was 18, 19 years old, went through the sexual abuse, was very traumatized by it, but her brain replaced the teacher with her father in the memory.
Why would the brain do that?
Why would the brain do anything?
Okay, so bottom line is just right there. It tells us
why do people think the Toronto Maple Leafs the Stanley Cup?
The memory may not be accurate then.
Well, that's
we have no way to verify
it. So she could not deal with what happened on the trip. And the father told me, he said, she keeps projecting it and thinking it's me. He said, I wasn't even on the trip.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
He was very stressed. So I worked with her. That's the one I worked for 90 minutes with this woman. And we untangled it. Now, so here's the real question. Are these memories reliable? The answer is no memories are reliable ever.
Every time you access them.
Access them, you change them, you emphasize some parts. We do deletion, generalization, and distortion in all our communications, including our memories. As Melissa Tier says, the only way you can preserve a memory is by not accessing it. And anyone will tell you at an accident scene, the police will say you'll get radically different representations of what occurred. So when I would deal with this kind of thing with a client, what I'm dealing with is not the event, but I'm dealing with their internal representation of the event and fixing that.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't believe in past lives, and a lot of people do past life regression. And in our classes, people typically, do you do past life regression? I say no, because I deal with scientific hypnosis that I don't care if you do that. I'm just saying
you're not saying that the other people are wrong.
No, I'm just saying that I deal with scientific hypnosis, which can be replicated in a laboratory and verified. And when we're dealing with past lives, we are now dealing outside the realm of science into seance. We're dealing with people's spirituality, religious beliefs, etc. And everyone in the class does not hold the same beliefs. So I keep it generic. Now, whether the person, I've worked with clients who spontaneously experience a past life, either through timeline therapy or, regression. If they do, I'm not going to bat an eyelid, Chris. I'm going to go with whatever they believe the memory is, and that's what I'm going to treat because it's their representation. We're changing anyway. We do not experience the world except through the sense of smell. Remember, everything else is a representation. Sense of smell gets right into the limbic system of the brain, though.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good answer. So basically, you cannot ever rely on memories as being accurate. There'll be varying degrees of accuracy, and the more you access it, the more you play around with it in your mind, the more you're likely to distort it
all the time. Yeah. We're changing some modalities.
So what do you recommend then? Let's make this as useful as we can, even though we can't truly answer the question in a necessarily useful way.
I can give you the simple answer.
What should this woman do who suspects that she knows who a perpetrator of a situation was in the past, a crime, I assume?
Well, the legal aspect has to be dealt with through the proper authorities without any question. If she intends on pursuing this, she needs to do it through the police.
And if she doesn't want to pursue
and she doesn't
know if her memory is accurate.
What I would do if it was me is remove the negative emotional charge and move on.
Yeah, and protect yourself going forward. Protect yourself. Make sure that lessons. You are well armed to protect yourself. Well armed, I don't mean physically
you don't mean
necessarily.
Carrying weapons, necessarily. But
have a strong critical faculty.
Yes.
Don't let crap through into your brain.
Learn from the experience, disempower it, and move on. Which leads us now to the empowering questions for today. Chris, take this away.
Okay, here's the empowering question. This is plural for podcast episode 103. What questions do you have for us that will change your life when you get the answers? What answers do you need from us, and what questions can we ask to start the process of new and better awareness?
Whoa, that was kind of trancy, really.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's get to our 100 days of awesome. Let's talk about some of the points. We've been flying through these. We have not missed a day yet. Some have got close to the wire with me, but we've gotten them in.
Yeah, so the context, for those of you just listening in and not aware, we are doing a 100 days of awesome challenge where we are posting daily videos on Instagram. Our channel is Mike Mandel Hypnosis. The hashtag that we're using is hashtag MMHAwesome, which obviously stands for Mike Mandel Hypnosis Awesome. When you're posting your own videos, use that hashtag. Talk about how you can make your life more awesome.
And there will be a prize at the end.
There will be a prize or multiple prizes, depending on the level of contribution from people.
Generosity is such an annoying thing.
Yep, we're going to customize the prizes based on the people and the contribution and on what we can do to help. So we're going to take some, every time we do a podcast during this 100 Days of Awesome challenge, which we're currently at about day 39 or day 40.
It's day 40 today, I think.
We are going to pick up on some of the key videos that we've done and just expand upon the point. So where do you want to start? Let's pick a few, and we'll talk about this for the rest of this podcast.
Well, I'd like to talk about the one I got from Adam Stein, and that's the one I'm using today. It's called That's Ridiculous.
I love this.
Now,
okay.
Just before we get there, you were asking me earlier about, Jerry was so right about you. We put that in the 100 Days of Awesome, the Jerry intervention. I have created the Monica intervention too, which I really like.
Are you going to share it with us?
I'm going to share it now, but it's not. It's just kind of amusing to me. When someone starts to behave in any particular way, it doesn't matter. You just look at them with sudden understanding. You say, "Yes, of course I am, Monica."
Oh, like you're accusing them of being
but
Monica.
You don't say who Monica is ever. And it's like, okay, well, I got to get all these breakfast foods together. Yeah, why don't you just get to it, Monica?
Yeah, thanks, Monica.
There's something about that particular name. If you say it with almost a pseudo anger, yes, get on with it, Monica. They'll look at you. It causes a wonderful PGO spike.
That is really great.
So I've researched in my brain.
This.
The name Monica makes it fun. I'm sure you are, Monica. Like, Monica who? It's just brilliant. Everybody use it. Tell me what kind of results you get.
Now, have you done this?
No.
Yet
No, I haven't, Monica.
Do you think there would be any? Do you think there'd be any?
My side laughing.
Any difference in using this intervention on a man versus a woman?
I don't know. Using it on a man, I think, would be funny.
Funny, I think.
With a woman, I would suggest you say Luigi. Of course I will. I'll put it on the table right now, Luigi.
Okay.
What? Okay. Now, anyway, let's talk about Adam Stein.
So speaking of the Monica intervention, is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about Adam.
Stein talked about That's Ridiculous. Adam Stein is a good friend of ours, and he's a psychiatrist in Toronto. He's the only psychiatrist you can see within 24 hours if you need to see one big time.
And pay attention, folks. This is a really good intervention.
It's a good intervention from him. If he has a client who's dealing with a lot of anxiety, he will get them to fire this anchored state of how ridiculous something is by saying that's ridiculous repeatedly. For example, if he had a patient, in his case, client in ours, if he had a patient that said, I'm just afraid every time I go out, I'm afraid that I'm going to be run over by a car. So he'll say, your house is made of purple grapes. And they say, that's ridiculous. And then he says, you own 150 zebras. And they say, that's ridiculous. And your basement is full of purple monkeys. That's ridiculous. Your son is 160 years old. That's ridiculous. And after they've done about 9 or 10 of these, and he says, when you grow out, you're afraid you're going to be run over. And they go, that's ridiculous, with the same tone. And it starts to erase it by them drawing on that particular state, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, it creates a new neural pathway in the brain to respond to the situation. Speaking of which, Mike, what is the new... Remember when we would talk about Hebb's law and neurons that wire together, fire together? And the idea that when you create this metaphorical path in your brain, that we want to now change the path. What's the new metaphor? It's not a path in the forest.
Oh, I love this. It's a bobsled run.
Maybe give a little more context here.
Here's the context. We use ADAC, so it's associate, dissociate, associate, collapse, which really comes from John Overdorf evaluating the meta pattern, the pattern behind almost all the patterns. And basically, we get the person to associate into the problem state briefly, which lights up the circuitry.
It's sort of like standing in front of their old path, looking at it.
Lights it up. They exit from it. They dissociate from it. Then they associate into an empowering state. Then they look at the old state from the empowering state, and the two merge together. They fire together and they wire together, and it changes things. Now, the bottom line is The metaphor is if you're the first person to walk through a forest, there's no path. But if you keep walking through the same route every day, you eventually create a path. And if other people start walking through, the path gets bigger, more deeply ingrained. The sticks and leaves get pushed off to the sides. And that's like the neural pathways in your brain. And what we do is we put up a stop sign, stop the person getting in, and help them create a new neural pathway that changes their behavior, even if it's an addiction.
Yeah. Melissa Tears calls this the roadblock.
The roadblock, put up a road closed sign. But the interesting thing is Chris and I had a classmate, well, he's not our classmate, our student, actually, I think is the proper word. And he told us a really interesting thing. He thinks of it as a toboggan run. So you go down the side of a hill, and the first time you're sliding all over the place. And as you go down again, eventually you engrave a path. Now, the difference is when you're walking through the forest, you're doing it intentionally. The toboggan run is just a path guides you.
Yeah, you're forced into this path, and it steers you like a bobsled track.
Really interesting, and it's a great way to look at this.
Yeah, so, okay, that was a nice little aside.
Yes, it was, Monica.
So that's ridiculous. Think about that as an intervention. Now, from a hypnotic standpoint, it's essentially a giant compliance set.
Interesting.
Right?
You want to elaborate on that?
Well, so a compliance set creates obedience. So a hypnotist or anybody in the field of influence might just ask somebody to comply with basic things like, can you just stand over here for a second? Okay, move a couple of inches this way. Make sure you're take a deep breath. Make sure you're looking at that particular spot over here. Yeah. Whatever it is, instructions to comply. Well, if you are complying by saying that's ridiculous, you're complying, obviously, but you're also entering this ego state of thinking about these things that are ridiculous and saying it out loud and committing to the fact that my basement being made out of purple grapes, that's ridiculous. And then continuing with the compliance set, now stating that imagining I'm going to get run over when I go outside. Yeah. It's ridiculous, right?
So it's the nice compliance set leading into it. They get into a more empowered state of how stupid the whole thing is and then attach that back to it. Brilliant, buddy.
So that's
good.
Very cool. And for those who want to watch your video, that's the day 40 video, correct?
Yes, it is.
Right. Okay. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. It's up to you. Here we go.
Well, we already talked about the fasting that we're doing, so we can talk about the reset button. So in our case, this 36-hour, really 40-ish, 41-hour fast that we're doing is about hitting the reset button on metabolic processes. Getting your body fat adapted, accelerating that. But there's a metaphor there for hitting the reset button in your life. And so do you want to talk about where people can hit the reset button?
Well, there's many times in our lives that we get into, and this fits perfectly with what we've just been saying, with a deeply engraved pattern that becomes habituated. And I think sometimes we have to step outside our lives. And this is one of the human givens. We have the ability to look at our lives and our situation from the outside and look at it impassionately and just recognize what's going on. I think sometimes we need to step outside our lives, take a look at our relationships, take a look at our work, take a look at our leisure time, and say, what needs to be reset? What's just drifting along on its own without me thinking?
That's a very good point.
We need a reset when we get on autopilot. And buddy, I was getting on autopilot and just reaching for carbs and started to balloon up again from eating too many carbs. And just reset the shit.
That's right, Monica.
So the reset button you gave me of saying, you do this 36, 42-hour fast to get burning fat cells again. And it's been a great thing for me. So my question is to all of you, think of where do you have to reset in your life? Reset relationally, reset your workplace. What is it? Hit the reset button.
Your reset button, when it comes to diet, like we were just talking about, could be as simple as open your cupboards, grab all the crap that you shouldn't be eating, and throw it in the garbage. And your reset is go to the grocery store and get good stuff. Get stuff that you should be feeding yourself. Reset in a relationship could be, you catch yourself and your spouse or your wife, whatever, and you're each maybe on Facebook too much on your phone and not interacting with each other.
Right.
You're too busy experiencing how other people project their lives on social media instead of living your own damn life.
Yeah, living your own damn life.
So
you sound like Jordan Peterson now.
Your own damn. Put your phone away and maybe say, hey, you know what, honey, we got to reinstitute date night every single Thursday, whatever it is. Let's press the reset button on how we interact.
Your wife turns to you and says, yeah, I'm sure we do, Monica.
Yeah.
Buddy, we should go to our metaphor now.
Yeah, we'll save some more of this stuff for episode 104 because there's lots to go here.
Let's delete the stuff we've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
My question to you, buddy, is this leads into the metaphor.
Okay, go for it.
My lead-in question before I answer this myself is, what is the worst job you ever had?
That's a really hard one. I'm so tempted to say it was
flamboyantly amazing job.
My very first job was at McDonald's. I was a
how did that work out for you?
Hamburger flipper type guy, right?
Yeah.
But it taught me it was a crap job.
Yeah.
But
taught you how to flip burgers.
The organization itself was fine. It was just a crap job.
Yeah.
But it taught me responsibility, and and it also taught me I wanted to move on from that really quickly.
That's a good point. Gave you a nudge in the right direction.
So I can't really reframe it.
This in Montreal?
No, Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I only lived in Montreal until I was about 10 years old.
So how much were you making per hour at this job?
That was probably back in the day. Minimum wage, I think, was, I want to say $3.85 an hour.
Okay. That was a lot better than me. My worst job was working at the Red Barn.
Oh.
And the Red Barn was a McDonald's knockoff. And their commercial was, when the hungries hit, hit the Red Barn. And Chris, this was so long ago. This is 1970. I was 17 years old. I was earning $1 an hour.
Oh, man.
And hamburgers were 15 cents.
Wow.
And a cheeseburger, like a McDonald's cheeseburger now, was 20 cents.
Ooh,
and so you could feed a family of, 10 for $5, which was ridiculous. But that job, I hated it. I had to wear a stupid little paper hat, and I was working the counter. I wasn't flipping burgers. And behind the grill was Tony Gradini. And Tony Gradini was a big Italian guy from our school, and he was experienced working there. He'd moved up to the grill, and we wouldn't get out till 3 a.m. sometimes, this horrible part-time job. And I remember working one day, one guy wanted his chicken extra crispy. They put this chicken in a box. And Tony hands it to me. It's right out of the grill, and it's like 5 billion degrees. I pick up the box. It's burning my hands through the box. I drop it. And 3 pieces of chicken slide all over this greasy, filthy floor behind the counter. And I look up immediately. Tony doesn't see, and the man is just idly looking around the restaurant and hasn't noticed. There's nobody else paying attention. I said, Tony, I've dropped the chicken. And he looks at me and he says, pick up the chicken, put it in the box, and serve the customer. I said, but Tony, it's gone all over the floor. It's filthy. It's greasy. He says, pick up the chicken, put it in the box, and serve the customer. So I did.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been Brain Software, episode 103 with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. And you have just enjoyed another amazing episode. So keep listening and make sure you visit our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. Check out MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events for all the live events that we're doing.
Thanks again.
And good night.
Mr. Thompson, I ever tell you the remarkable story of Henry Squatter and the nudist colony?
The nudist colony? No, please do.
Wonderful story.
Never heard this one.
It must have been about 1917. Squatter had been with us for a little while. The war was still going on. And we had a bit of time back in London. And Dennis Bryce Morgan was there, and Peter Fitzwadsworth Smythe, and Johnny Bortman, Johnny Latham Yachts Woe, Johnny Brookman Ding T. Larciar. And we were sitting around Blades, which was the club we used to go to. And Squatter came in out of the rain, and Bryce Morgan began speaking with him, and we knew he was setting up another one of his marvelous jokes. And he asked Squatter if he'd ever been to the south of France. And Squatter said, no, I've only been in the trenches, the damnable trenches near the Maginot Line, which is where we were in the north. And now we're back in London. And he said, I used to love it down there, Squatter. They had a nudist colony. All Squatter's eyebrows perked up at this. He said, well, what do you mean? He said, they have an entire camp where men and women would walk about stark raving naked. And it wasn't any sort of sexual or erotic thing, as you would think. It was just the most relaxing and comfortable thing. You're just wandering about without the trousers and the wedding tackle out in the breeze. And Squatter found this rather interesting. And he said, you mean there'd be women there as well? And he said, yes, some of the most lovely women you can imagine. And we'd all just have some wine and wander about the beach stark naked. And Squatter took quite an interest in this.
And Bryce Morgan waited for about a week, and he said, "Oh, squatter, there's a special party coming to the London area, and it's a bunch of Frenchmen have brought a roving nudist colony with them. And me and a bunch of the chaps are going to go and have a look at it. Would you like to come out?" And the squatter said, No, Bryce Morgan, that's not my sort of thing at all. He seemed rather interested in the story. And he said, "Yeah, I know, but I couldn't imagine myself hanging around with a bunch of naked blokes. It's just not, there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my sort of thing." Bryce Morgan said, "Well, Lady Melbury's going to be there." And squatter really perked up. You're saying Lady Melbury is going to be wandering about stalkers? He said, "Well, I expect so. It's part of the rules that you have to leave all of your clothing at the door." He said, "Well, I've reconsidered, Bryce Morgan. I think I might actually like to go." He said, "Well, I'll get you a ticket. Be at this address on the 14th of May, and bring a kit bag, a croak sack, to drop your belongings in, and put it with your Jimmy hat and all those things, and just come in through the door and knock 3 times and we'll open it." And so squatter was rather excited, and the day was approaching, and he worn just a light robe and a pair of bedroom slippers and was dropped off by a hansom cab, and they let him through the gates. He was rather suspicious because the Grenadier Guards let him in, and he thought, this is a party of some note. And they opened the door in response to his knock, and he threw his bathrobe off and in the croak sack and with his Jimmy hat, and he wandered in, and it was a huge hall with instruments playing and people were dancing. It was the back of Buckingham Palace, and he'd come in stark naked, and the Queen was there, and everyone was outraged, and he was beaten senseless and thrown out the back door. He spent a week in the infirmary, and then another 6 months in the stockade. Funniest damn thing.
Yes, what is that?